So this is just a test to see my first time recording from a screen capture YouTube gaming application using a video capture mode. And I'm going to launch the Fleet Viewer here on the screen. And I was trying to find a way to get it to record. So Fleet Viewer is intentionally not, it should be showing the camera overlay, I thought, but maybe not. Anyway, I'm just learning this video capture app since the first time I've really used it. Anyway, this is Fleet Viewer. It's intentionally not a Star Citizen specific app. I'm trying not to make it Star Citizen specific because it's just, all it is doing is just showing 3D models. And it'll let you move your models around eventually. Like this is this is one step beyond Hello World. If you've used the Google VR demos and Unity or Unreal, it's basically the Google the GVR demo minus the cube room around the outside is what this is. And I dropped in a Nox and I added a particle effects to it. That's all this is. The eventual plan, and as you can see in the upper left corner, there's it's way off the edge of the screen in VR mode. I need to move it around and make prototyping with the UI layouts so that someone can add devices. Maybe the menu button on the controller would pop up that. It wouldn't always be visible when you hit the app button on the controller. These drop downs would pop up in maybe a little more specific place. Maybe I'll make it in 3D, who knows. But to make it in a 3D widgets, I don't know yet of any 3D widgets. There probably are some canned ones, or it'd be kind of cool to have a 3D UI pop in front of you. And the drop down will be populated. The list will be populated manually from the Roberts Space Industry website. When it's again, it's not Star Citizen specific, but I will have a first class ability to treat Star Citizen as a first class plugin, so that it goes to the Star Citizen website and has pre-compiled in the app a list of all the ships, because I'm not going to go out to the ship matrix and parse it. The matrix is kind of unstable and changing dynamically every week. Every time they add a new concept ship, the list changes, and I'm not going to go through and parse it, because right now the theory is, the rumor is that list is going to change so that it's dynamic with a 3.0 release. What is it? The people that make Spectrum, totally spacing on their name right now. Turbulent Labs, they're updating the ship matrix. And so maybe after the ship matrix is updated, I'll pull in the ships dynamically from the list if it kind of becomes parsable. Otherwise, I'll just, in the app, compile it into the app, or a configuration file actually. It'll load a configuration file that'll have a list of the model names and the URLs. And then Star Citizen uses CHM models. I don't even know what it stands for. CTM, CHM, CTM. I have no idea what the file name extension stands for. OpenCTM is the name of the file format. And it's an extremely efficient way to store a 3D model, especially intended for web downloading, mobile downloading. It's quite efficient, but no 3D, no VR apps, no 3D apps support CTM directly. I wouldn't say no, but it's very hard to find one. Definitely Blender, Unity, Unreal, the Lumberjack engine. None of these engines directly support the CTM file format. There's a Mesh Viewer that does support it. There is an OpenCTM plugin supposedly for Blender, but it's out of date and doesn't work. So kind of issues and concerns with the CTM file format. So what I'm going to do in the interim until I solve the CTM and make it better. I may just hard code convert the CTMs to another file format, which is pretty standard, which is the OBJ file format. There are other file formats. I don't particularly have a feel for how efficient or inefficient the OBJ file format is, but I do know that it is very interchangeable between different 3D editors. I'm using the term 3D and VR interchangeably, even though VR is superset. Basically, it's 3D and 2 renderers like this view right here. It's just 2 cameras. Anyway, I'm rambling, but the plan is to be able to use the controller, which I've currently misplaced. I have to go home and find it. And I can select the UI to add models or remove models, and then once a model is added to the view, it will scale automatically. Another problem with the Robert Space Industries ship models, the CTM files, is they're not scaled uniformly. So I'm going to make up my own unit of measure to get this to work, and conveniently, or just not conveniently, coincidentally, or it just is, that a Starfarer is kind of the biggest flyable ship at the moment. I'm certain it's bigger than a Caterpillar. I think it's bigger than a Caterpillar. Anyway, it's the more massive ship. It's more massive than a Caterpillar. It's 100 meters long. So to be sort of metric, I'm going to use the Starfarer. I think without the refueling tail boom is my standard unit of measure. And all ships, since I know how many pixels long a Starfarer is, and I know how many meters it's supposed to be, then I have to basically know the length of all the other ships. So in my configuration file, where I have both the ship name and the URL to the CTM file, I'm also going to have the length of that model and what it's supposed to be, so that I can compare it, or relatively scale it, compared to a Starfarer. Even though you would never see a Starfarer on the screen, I would know its relative, since I know in the preloaded models, I know how big. I would have to load a Starfarer, because they might change a Starfarer from one model. Theoretically, the Starfarer model would change. So I have to go out and get the latest Starfarer model, which is, I'll have at least one preloaded, since I'm going to be using preloaded models at the first few versions of this app. And then I'll scale the second model that you load, the actual model that you do load, to Starfarer length that I've calculated. And then you can add another model, such as like if you wanted to put, I put an Argo inside of a Polaris, and it barely fit. I put a Dragonfly inside of the Polaris hangar, and it barely fit. I did these inside of Unity itself. I think I might have also done it in the Unreal Engine. I did it in the Unreal Engine. I'm assuming the scaling is the same between the two. And I loaded an Idris, Polaris, a Super Hornet, a Terrapin, a Dragonfly, a Nox, an Argo, and they just got weird scaling results. It's very straightforward loads, no problem there. But when I take the loaded model and display it, and try to move it around inside of the Polaris hangar, it doesn't scale right. So you know the length of the Polaris, you know the length of the Super Hornets, etc. You know the length of the Starfarer, and they just don't line up in the 3D world. Sometime I'll show you an example of that from a desktop capture, which shows a little more straightforward. These VR captures here, I can't move right now. I actually have another version that I just worked on today that does let me move the camera with the controller. But again, I currently don't have the controller on my person. I think it's at home. And I've been using the controller emulator inside of Unity. So anyway, long ramble of, this is demo of how things are working. All right, let's get exit out of this, and later, how do I stop capture? Like this, stop, later.